Happy Testicle Tuesday. It is the beginning of week 11. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the Fantasy Football Buzz podcast. With me, as always, we have Cyclop and 2020. Guys, happy Tuesday. How are you doing?
Well, I got to tell you,
feeling good.
Feeling nothing but
Jove? Oh, joy. Okay.
Well, after an integral win against, I couldn't wait top of the show. After an integral win against Cyclop this week to crawl back into that 5-5, I'm feeling pretty good. Keep hope alive.
Yes, lucky win. If you played me the week before, you lose.
Wow,
yeah, whatever. Whatever.
The only reason why you beat me is because you scored more points. That's it.
All right. Well, I'm sure people listening out there really don't give a crap about your game between the two of you, unless
that's probably
there
true.
is something that you regret, either one of you, in your lineup, who you didn't start, who you should have started, because that's important information moving forward.
I actually do. I had a couple of those, and luckily, even with a couple of decisions that I regret, I was still able to eke it out. I put in Duke Johnson just because I thought the workload was going to be there, and with DeAndre Swift, who's clearly a better back, only getting 12, 13, 14 carries a game. And
even after we told you not to.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Talk to me when you're like 7-2, anyway.
I am talking to you like I'm only 8-3. I'm sorry. Am I not supposed to be talking to you about it? I'm the one who recommended that, but it's all right. You're 5-5.
Anyway, shish. So yeah, DeAndre Swift, putting in. I sat Godwin because who knew with that finger. Played Fulgham, who had one catch after getting 8-9 every game. So listen.
Well, Wentz had an off week. I don't think that this is reflective of Fulgham moving forward. I don't think it's reflective of Wentz moving forward. Actually, what I'm going to do is let me tell you what we're going to do tonight. We're going to go over waiver pickups because in many leagues at 2 a.m. this morning or tonight, they're going to be processing all the waiver claims. So we're going to give you help with who to pick up, which quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and defenses to pick up. Just a quick update on what's going on in the NFL. And then, of course, as always, we're going to be answering your questions. If you have any questions in Facebook Live or YouTube Live, go ahead and put that in there, and we will answer those right away. And if you want to give us a call, you can always give us a call at the Buzz at 772-800-BUZZ or 2899 to speak to us. Either way, we would love to hear from you. What I want to do, guys, let's jump right into updates.
All right. So go through the updates quick. Most people know them, but just in case you're not updated. So we have Drew Brees. Gets hurt, some cracked rib, and a punctured lung. He's getting a second opinion. I still expect him to miss at least 1 week and potentially multiple weeks. So definitely look to pick up somebody for him. Nick Foles, his injury does not look as bad as originally thought. Looks like it's a hip flexor. Not fantasy relevant anyway. If he's on your team, drop him. Christian McCaffrey, listed as questionable this week. Keep an eye to see if he practices. They're still saying he'll probably miss another week or two, but keep an eye on that. Teddy Bridgewater, same team. The MRI came back good on his knee, that there's no structural damage. So keep an eye on it, see if he practices. He very well could play again this week. Jordan Howard, cut. Wasn't fantasy relevant anyway, but he's cut. It makes other people more fantasy relevant.
Right.
James Hasty, again, people thought he might do something, including me. He's on IR, expect him to be done for the year. Antonio Brown, our favorite player to talk about, right? He seems like every time he signs with a team, like a few weeks before, he did something stupid, right? So this time it's breaking security cameras and bicycles and whatever it is. The NFL is reviewing, so keep an eye on that to see if they decide to get rid of him again. Who knows? Lockett in Seattle has a knee sprain. They play on Thursday night. Not a lot of time. Keep an eye on that. He's listed as questionable and very suspect of playing this Thursday night. The Packers activated Lazard from the IR. Good news for Green Bay. Good news for Aaron Rodgers. all of those things. Graham Gano on the COVID list. Chris Thompson on the IR. He was doing anything anyway, as Robinson is getting everything there. And that's about it in the updates.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into your waiver claims, give you some help. If you have any questions, you want to know who to pick up, who to drop, because we usually just talk about who to pick up. We usually don't go into who to drop, but we're here. We'll help you, tell you who to drop in the event you have to pick somebody up. And we're actually going to start with me. I'm going to go into our quarterbacks. We already heard from Cyclops tonight, right? We got a bunch of injuries in the quarterback side. We've got Drew Brees, Matt Stafford with his thumb. We've got Teddy Bridgewater. We don't know what's happening with that. Drew Lock with his ribs. Nick Foles with his leg or hip or back. Gardner Minshew with his thumb. Sam Darnold, right? And then we got Josh Allen on bye. So the reason I'm repeating all of these injuries is because that means that people are going to be digging deep into the waiver wire looking for quarterbacks, whether it's because they have Josh Allen or one of these other guys that are hurt. So we're going to start off with the most obvious and the one that's on everybody's lips, and that is Jameis Winston. Now, when Jameis Winston's going to be filling in for Drew Brees, I know there's all this talk about maybe he's not going to be the starter and that Taysom Hill's going to start. Just when people say that, just laugh at them and move on. Jameis Winston is going to be the starter, and he's going to be facing the Falcons. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast and you've been listening to us, you know how we feel about that Falcons defense, mainly because the stats don't lie. Right now, they are the second worst defense in the league. And Winston, when he was with Tampa Bay, he scored at least 29 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 meetings with Atlanta. So, look, last year when Breeze missed those games with his thumb injury and Teddy Bridgewater came in, he scored at least 20 fantasy points in the 3 starts that he had with the Saints. So, look, will Jameis Winston come in and do what he did against the Falcons in the past? Will he do what Teddy Bridgewater did last year? We don't know. But what
did you just say Teddy Bridgewater?
What did I say?
I swear to God, it sounded like you said Teddy Bridgewater. Sorry, I'm hearing.
Yeah, Teddy.
Keep going on.
Well, that's what I call him, Teddy. But let's just put it this way. If you have the opportunity to go Winston and you need a quarterback, whether it's because of Teddy or because of Drew Brees, pick up Jameis Winston. The other guy who, believe it or not, is available. He's a guy that was drafted and then dropped in so many leagues, and that's Phillip Rivers. Now, Phillip Rivers, he's playing well. He's scored at least 18 fantasy points in 3 of his past 4 games. And Green Bay, I don't know what's going on with Jair Alexander. I know he had the concussion. He's Green Bay's best defender. If he's still in that concussion protocol, and now you've got Kevin King with a quad issue, and if he's out, I don't know. Phillip Rivers might be the guy. He might surprise a lot of people. Also, Alex Smith. Now, it's a good news, bad news situation. Alex Smith, the bad news is that he only has 28 fantasy points in his last 2 games. The good news is, out of those last 2 games, he's thrown for 715 yards
Amazing.
on 87 attempts. But 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions in those games. So nobody's bidding on him because of that. But the good news is he's got a good matchup this week against Cincinnati. And the Bengals have allowed 3 of their past 4 opponent quarterbacks to pass for at least or close to 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. If you need a quarterback, Jameis Winston, Phillip Rivers, or Alex Smith. If they're gone or you don't like anything I'm saying, other people to think about: Kirk Cousins, who's finally off the schneid, Baker Mayfield, Andy Dalton. But I'm looking at Winston, Rivers, and Alex Smith here. Let's jump right into running backs. I'm sorry, what was that, Brad?
No, I said very nice. Good options there.
Yeah, really. Yeah, definitely. And Kirk Cousins came off the schneid against a really tough defense.
Yeah, I thought it was a tough game to watch. Can we talk about that for a second? Did you guys watch the game last night?
Yeah, Chicago. If they even had a hint of an offense, they'd be a dangerous team.
Even the Jets game was more exciting. That was
awful.
It was just a really difficult game to watch. For fantasy stats, Thielen, I've never seen him play so poorly. Dalvin Cook is always exciting to watch. I was enjoying the matchup with him and was it Hicks, or who's the guy who was the defensive tackle for the Bears? And that was fun. But for the most part, it was a really difficult game to watch.
Well, Justin Jefferson looks good.
You know what? He's so boom or bust. And if you'd have told me it was against the Bears that he would get his boom game again, I would never have believed that. I mean, seriously? Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, so let's jump right into running backs.
All right.
Go ahead.
You ready? Here we go. So I pulled out a few running backs that are not it's interesting. Like earlier in the year, it was all running backs who were getting hurt and now it's seems like it's quarterbacks. It seems like it's shifted a little bit. So there's a little less out there on the waiver wire for running backs. But we'll go through some people. Hines, as well as Phillip Rivers, right? Hines only 40% owned in leagues. Now he's up and down in points. You never really know what you're going to get, but he seems to be the first head of the three-headed monster there in Indy. He had 70 rushing yards last week, 5 catches. He had the couple touchdowns, so his numbers, certainly are elevated because of that. But if you need to stream someone, you have someone on bye, that's a good option. McKissick, it seems like we're going to the same people, same teams anyway. You were talking about Alex Smith, and McKissick is only owned still in 25% of the leagues at this point. He's had 29 targets over the last few weeks, and he's getting points.
Think about that. 29 targets. That's a lot.
That's a lot. He's had 9
Cooper
2 weeks.
Cup-like.
Yeah, he had 9 to go, and he had another 8 catches, I think, this week. I forget the exact number, but it doesn't seem like that's going to slow down. They're using Gibson. Gibson only had 8 rushing yards. So, some people may want to look to trade him. But as far as picking up a waiver wire running back, Hines, McKissick. Then you have Damian Harris in New England. Some people have still been sleeping on him. All of a sudden, New England's gone to this power running game, and Harris there. Now Rex Burkhead is getting the catches, and he's getting some, it's like they still mix everybody in, but Harris seems to be the guy. Unfortunately, you have Cam Newton there who gets the touchdowns. So that's certainly the way some of that value. The big name this week, Ahmed in Miami, only owned in 7% of leagues. I think they're just talking about our league because you picked him up, Commissioner League.
Yep.
He had 85 yards, a touchdown. He looked good. What we've seen already from the Dolphins this year is they really want to use a predominantly one-back system. Now, Matt Breida may be coming back, so that could take away a little bit. Jordan Howard's gone, but I think they'll give him the opportunity if he continues to do well. Now, their next 3 matchups are against losing teams. I think the Jets, Cincinnati, and somebody else. But all 3 losing teams. So I think he'll get his opportunity. So that would be someone great to grab this week if he's available in the other 93% of those leagues.
So I'll tell you in our league what happened was Saturday. I've had the problem of having Carson hurt for so long, and then my backup is I have Chase Edmonds, but because Drake was coming back, and I'm panicking. I didn't know who to pick up, so I'm looking at the waiver wire for running backs, and there's not a lot out there. I did see Jamal Williams was on there.
Yeah.
McKissick wasn't available because somebody had picked him up and then dropped him on Saturday, so he wasn't available.
He's available now, right?
He's available now. I could have had Adrian Peterson and Cordarrelle Patterson. So what I did was I picked up Patterson, and then all day Saturday I kept thinking, I don't like Patterson. And I dropped Patterson. I figured, you know what? I'm going to try Ahmed. Grabbed him. Now, Patterson wouldn't have been bad. He scored almost 12 points.
Was that because of the kickoff return?
The return.
The kickoff return.
So let me tell you Patterson's numbers. They were incredibly similar as a running back to Montgomery's numbers. I think it was 12 rushes for 30 yards.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible.
Montgomery is getting
actually looked really good. Ahmed looked really good in that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting as a Dolphin fan, not as an Ahmed owner, but as a Dolphin fan to see what they're going to do and how they're going to utilize him. I think he did look better than Gaskin has, and Gaskin looked great, but I think Ahmed just has that vision. So it should be interesting to see what happens.
Right. Let me give you two more quick.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Potentially have on your roster. Then we actually have a question about a running back, so we'll get to that right after this because one of my people actually plays into this. Rex Burkhead is available. He's only owned in 24% of leagues. Not getting a lot of rushes, but he gets the ball and he makes the most out of his touches, right? How many touchdowns does he have this year? I don't even know, but it seems like every time they score, it's either Cam Newton or Rex Burkhead.
Right.
So you can get him on your roster. Also, if he's available in your league, Tony Pollard, pick him up, stash him. They were on bye last week. Elliott has this hamstring injury. He had a week to rest, but Pollard has looked better. Pollard's averaging 6.3 yards per carry. Elliott 2.8 yards per carry. So this brings us right into Jake's question of should I trade Elliott, and if so, for who?
Okay, let's go back to Tony Pollard for a second. I think Pollard is a good idea for possibly a handcuffer in the event that Elliott gets hurt. But with all the money that they have pumped in and knowing how Jerry Jones is and his history, I doubt he's going to bench Elliott for Pollard. Now, you might see Pollard share more, which you've seen over the past few weeks, a little more of that run share. But a lot of it has to also do with the fact that the Cowboys have been behind. And so they look at Pollard as their pass catching back. So that being said, don't expect all of a sudden Ezekiel Elliott to be benched, but Pollard will be getting some more carries. To the question of whether or not you trade Elliott, I'm one of the guys, and Jake, I don't know if you did this, but I ended up drafting Ezekiel Elliott third. You might have as well. And once Dak Prescott went down, once that offensive line started getting hurt, he became human again. So the question is, should you trade him? Yes. Who do you trade him for? It's whether or not you find somebody out there who wants Elliott on the name alone. I can tell you that I made the trade with Cyclop when I had Zeke Elliott. I traded him for most part straight up for Lamar Jackson. Cyclop, being a savvy fantasy football player, decided I'm going to get rid of him after having him for a day.
Not even
him out. And ended up, I think, through all these trades, getting away with Hopkins now.
I traded away Hopkins, but yes, I got Hopkins as part of that.
Right. Yeah. So yeah. The answer is you're not going to get much for Ezekiel Elliott, but remember, this is not about whether or not you're going to get what you think you deserve because you drafted him third. It's whether or not you're going to get somebody that's going to improve your team more than what you're going to get from Zeke on a weekly basis. He's going to be completely touchdown dependent. He's not going to get those 100-yard games. So unless they're getting the ball on the goal line, and now that Andy Dalton's back, you're going to see Schultz getting more of those possessions in the red zone. I don't know.
And some advice is I would look for someone who obviously in your league has an abundance at running backs. Look at your Todd Gurley owner. I could tell you I have someone who's trying to trade me Zeke Elliott, and we're talking about Gurley, but what you're probably going to have to do is give up Elliott to get like a Todd Gurley. He wasn't fantastic, but at least he's getting the touchdowns. And you might have to take a receiver, package that in, take a little dip at a receiver. So package Elliott in and a receiver, get another better running back and a lesser receiver. And I think you might have some open ears that way. But the kind of talent that you're going to be looking at is like the Todd Gurley, maybe a Jonathan Taylor, who I wouldn't even want at this point. That's almost like having Elliott. People in that vein. But you might have to do a little packaging to make that happen.
I'd be curious to know who your other running backs are and how you're surviving with what's been happening with Elliott. Let us know. And anybody else out there, if anybody has any questions, feel free to give us a call at 772-800-BUZZ. Yes, it's free. Or you can always comment.
Were you done with running backs?
Yes, I finished running backs.
So there's one that unless I missed it, that we absolutely have to add. As a matter of fact, I would say he's probably up there with Ahmed maybe even ahead of him as the number one running back waiver wire
Enlighten
this
us.
weekend.
Stop talking about it and just tell us.
It has to be somebody on your roster, right?
It's not on my roster. Shut up, you. It's actually Kalen Ballage, and it's just the name that you're listening to, and you want to throw up in your mouth when you say it. But all Ballage has done in the last 2 weeks is put up 15.2 points. The week before, 16.4 points. He had 18 carries for 68 yards. The week before, 15 carries for 69 and a touchdown. But this is what's crazy. He's getting the catches too. Last week, he had 5 grabs for 34 yards. And listen to this. His schedule coming up, he's got the Jets at home. So you're talking about a game where they can get out ahead early, and Ballage is the guy. I mean, this guy has a chance to get 20 carries along with 3, 4, 5, 6 grabs, and he's got at Buffalo, and that defense is not what anybody expected. Then after that, he's at home against New England, and then Atlanta. But Eckler's going to come back probably within the next couple of weeks. So
Eckler. First of all, Eckler is probably not coming back for another 3 weeks. Second of all, the reason I didn't bring him up is because we brought him up last week. So people who listened to us last week,
but he's still available. But he's still available in over 52% of ESPN leagues. He's only been grabbed in 48% of the leagues. So even though we brought him up last week, and we did, but I'm just saying, amazingly, he's still available in the majority at least, in over 52% of leagues in ESPN. So people have not bitten on to him yet. And what our advice here is bite, because he's doing a good job. They love him. They love his side. He's a good pass blocker, and they're not even bringing him out in passing down. And with Justin Jackson on the IR, it's a nice pickup.
All right.
Do you have a poster of him in your room?
All right.
Apparently, you don't even have his name on your list, so maybe
it was last week. How many weeks do you want me to have him on there?
Keith, since you're enjoying the spotlight, go ahead and let's tell us about the wide receivers who you think people should pick up, and we'll see if Brad can name one that's not on your list.
Okay. Listen, we're doing a show here. I want to give our people good shit. So the first, I love Michael Pittman. Barely rostered anywhere. He's only rostered in 10% of Yahoo leagues, 5% of ESPN leagues. Last week, it looked like he was Phillip Rivers, who we just talked about. Kamish is really starting to come on again. His favorite target. He's a big, imposing threat. He had 8 targets last week, a very efficient 7 catches, and he had 101 yards, put up over 14. No, actually, even more than that. I'm not showing the points here, but he looked very good. So I highly recommend you pick him up. And what's beautiful, he's going against Green Bay coming up, who has, like you were just talking about, terrible defense. They're going to score. That's a real nice pickup. This is something we've talked about quite a bit. I think almost every week, Tim Patrick. But again, only rostered in 24% of Yahoo leagues and 16% of ESPN leagues. And he's getting targeted. Over the last 2 weeks, he's had 15 targets for 8 grabs. Didn't quite get the yards, but he did have a touchdown the week before last. But he's going up against Miami. Now, Miami's interesting. They're a bend, not break defense. They give up yards, and they do give up touchdowns in the air. But I think they're going to probably key in and put Xavier Howard on Jerry Jeudy, which would leave Patrick going against Byron Jones, who's a bit more beatable than Xavier Howard. So I do like Tim Patrick there. Keelan Cole is available in a lot of different leagues, 23% owned in Yahoo as well as ESPN. What I like about him, he's getting the targets, and he's getting he got a touchdown last week, 7 targets, 5 grabs for 40. He's a reach. I much prefer Pittman and Tim Patrick over him. But you know what's interesting? The receiver that seems to be performing the best right now and one of the more favorite targets in LA is Josh Reynolds. And he's available like literally everywhere. He's only grabbed in 5% of Yahoo leagues and 3% of ESPN leagues. And the last 3 weeks, now everyone gets targeted in this offense. In the last 3 weeks, he's had 27 targets for 16 catches. Last week, he went 10 targets, 8 grabs, 94 yards. And of the last 4 weeks, 2 of them he scored touchdowns. He's got a tough matchup at Tampa Bay, but they're a little easier to throw against than they are to run against. So, and as they got exploited by New Orleans previously, so I like that option at receiver. And then the last one we'll talk about is Allen Lazard, only rostered 44.5% in ESPN, just coming off the IR. And I got to tell you, he was lighting it up before he got injured. 2 of the 3 weeks he played, he looked like that really nice wide receiver too for Aaron Rodgers. No one's really stepped out. Scantling's coming on a little bit, but he's that WR2 to Devontae Adams being the main guy there. So I like Lazard this week, and they have they have a tough matchup going against Chicago. They're at Indy. It's a tough matchup, but still, I like Lazard for the long term, and that will round out my wide receiver pickups.
So there's a guy has a website, and we'll talk more about this on Sunday. He's a physician, an orthopedic doctor, and he runs this fantasy football website where he talks about the injuries and gives you some kind of, a little insight more than you get normally about injuries and how people were doing and when they'll be coming back. And somebody that he's recommending that people grab, maybe not necessarily for this week, but for your playoff run, is Sammy Watkins. Yep. And here's somebody that, as you know, Keith, from last year when you had him, he just blew up for your team. And I think that, it's somebody to think about, that he's probably available in most leagues, and it's somebody that's going to be part of that mix. And I do have a present for you, Keith. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's me, Balaj, and Jonah. So if you wanted to take that and superimpose yourself over that picture, you can do that.
Hey, you know something? Last week, he stepped in for me in a league where I've got Eckler and Carson and Mostert. So you know something? The kid stepped in, gave me 15 points, so I got a lot of love for him.
All right.
Sounds good. So, Kamish, before we go any further into tight ends, I believe would be next. We do have a question, and I'll use names that the people gave me. All right. So if there's a 1-9 team in a league, and then let's say an 8-2 team in a league, right? And one of them trades.
I wonder where you're going with this.
Yeah, I wonder. But I was asked to bring it up on the show, so I am. That's and fine. Wanted to hear. So let's say Dan is 8-2 and trades Gibson and Cooper Kupp and a kicker for some reason to the 1-9 team, who clearly is out of the playoff hunt. And the 1-9 team gives up Henry, Devontae Parker, and $5 in bid money. Now, so people know we get $100 in bid money for the year.
Hold on 1 second. Kenneth's coming to to here.
Oh.
Hey, Kenneth, how are you?
Not even Kenneth can help you on this one, Kamish.
I put in a claim for Kellen Balaj, or however you say it.
Kalen Balaj, yep.
Kalen Balaj.
Yeah.
That running back from the Chargers.
We're going to let 2020 handle this one.
And B, what should I do with Justin Jackson?
You can drop Justin Jackson. You can. He's on the IR, and Eckler will be back before Justin Jackson will even come off the IR. And by that point, Kalen Balaj he's established himself right now as the RB2 in that backfield. So Justin Jackson is completely droppable pretty much everywhere.
Would it be too early to ask if he would be wise to start this coming week?
Balaj, yeah. Definitely.
Definitely start Balaj this week?
Definitely start Balaj this week.
I think I still have Duke Johnson. Should I then put Balaj in?
I would put Balaj in over Johnson. I got to look at the matchups, who's playing who, but I would probably go with Balaj over Duke Johnson.
Duke, I believe, is playing the Pats. I'm not sure who Balaj is playing.
Balaj is, I'll tell you right now. Actually, I know who they're playing. I'll tell you who they're playing. They have a phenomenal matchup. They're playing the Jets. So I actually like Balaj this week as a top 10 running back. I think Balaj finishes in the top 10 this week going against the Jets.
So I can go ahead and drop Jackson and then put in Balaj over Duke Johnson.
Absolutely. Kick Jackson to the curb, and I would definitely start Balaj over Duke Johnson.
All right, guys. I appreciate y'all taking my call.
No problem, Kenneth. We'll talk to you on Sunday.
Always good to talk to you, Kenneth.
All
So
right,
we had a
take
question, Cyclop.
Yeah. So we were getting there as far as the 1-9 team, who I was saying is clearly, and let's say this is Mitch, right? We'll just use different names. Is 1-9 and makes that trade where he is seemingly out of it. What is the reasoning that trade happens?
Okay, so here's what everybody seems to be missing, because it's like the Ezekiel Elliott thing, right? It's based on name alone. So let's take a look at what this trade was. And Team A had Derrick Henry, Devontae Parker, and Derrick Henry the past 3 weeks 17.2, 6.8, 11.4. Those are Henry's points. Parker's points 6.8, 9.4, 4.1 for a total of 55.7. What did they trade those for? Gibson, 20.5, 12, and 18.8 over the past 3 weeks. Cooper Kupp, 8.9, 16.5, 7.5. And Jason Sanders, the top kicker, 14, 14, and 4 for a total of 116.2. So you're going to tell me,
I feel like breaking out.
Even if you take Sanders out of this deal, if you're looking at what's happened the past 3 weeks, F everybody, because they're jealous that they couldn't get the trade. They're jealous that they didn't get it. I took Henry because I'm banking on my future and hoping that Henry will turn into Henry again. That's all. It's
okay. No. I get. I 100%.
So people are crying. Let them cry.
No. I get the 8-2 side of the trade. What we don't get, and this is coming from,
why would a 1-9 team even
okay, I'll explain why. Because in our league, we have a thing called
wait, hold on. With somebody that has been known for an entire history, and we even had to talk about this year, that does not trade.
I'm explaining. We have a thing in our league called Pizza Boy, who is the person who finishes with the least amount of points in our league. Okay, and it's right now. If we're going to look at who the potential Pizza Boy is in our league, it's between two people, this guy and you, Brad.
That's correct.
So that's correct. So, you want to complain, or not you, but other people want to complain. What the person who's in last place is trying to do is avoid being Pizza Boy. So they're going to try to boost their team and get as many points as they can so that you become Pizza Boy and not them. So actually, I understand that. This isn't
just so you know, and we've had talks about this over the past couple weeks. I've had offers to this same person that were better than this offer.
I don't know.
Over the past few weeks, and
you know what? Hold on. What
was the offer? Was he doesn't.
And I'm
trade
frustrated.
anyway.
I'm frustrated too, because I've done that with Keith, where he wouldn't trade me, but he traded somebody else for something worse. Same thing happened with Bruno. Same thing happened.
I actually thought it was better.
Okay.
Right. Well, we're discussing this about our league. Hold on. We do have a couple questions coming in. So let's go to them, and then we can pick this back up. This is from Clayton. What's up, guys? Would you trade CMC away for Julio Jones? He has Miles Sanders, James Robinson, Swift, and Mostert in a PPR. Wow. My answer at this point is yes.
Yeah, probably.
Hold
on 1 second, Kenneth. Go ahead, Brad, and finish up.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. You have three other running backs and Mostert once he's healthy that you certainly, especially Swift becoming a starter, Miles Sanders. Yeah, I make that trade. CMC could be back this week, could be 2 more weeks. And you're probably, I don't know who your other receiver is there, but you're probably upgrading your receiver by getting Julio Jones on your team.
And Ridley's going to be coming back. That's the only negative for Julio, is because Ridley had been this year seems to be Matt Ryan's favorite target. He is going to be coming back from that ankle injury. But yeah, I would still do that deal.
Agreed. Okay. Even with Ridley and Julio was driving big time.
Okay. So next question comes
Before
from
we get to the next question, let's get Kenneth. Kenneth, what's going on?
Okay.
I was looking and I was considering picking up Breida, that running back from Miami. Is that a prize move?
No, because I think what's going to happen is Myles Gaskin's going to come back, and if there's going to be any type of share, it's going to be between Ahmed and Myles Gaskin, and you'll see Breda come in, maybe get 5 carries or catches, but that's it.
Right.
I don't think he's worthy of a pickup right now.
Agreed.
According to the players that I see here on my running back list, I see names like Damian Harris, F. Ahmed, P. Ryan. Are any of these guys worthy of pickup?
Well, Damian Harris has been lighting it up lately with over 100 yards several past games. So,
yeah, and Ahmed also.
But let's put it this. Let's remember this, guys. And I don't know if this is going to mean anything. And yes, we talked about Myles Gaskin coming back, and that's going to eat into Ahmed's carries. But Sonny Michel, who has been on IR all year, is also coming back.
Yep, that's true.
I'm not sure when, if it's going to be next week or the week after. And I'm not saying that he's all of a sudden going to take over all the carries Damian Harris was getting, but knowing how they are in New England, I would be a little concerned. Yeah. If you need somebody just for this coming week, I think Harris might be a good pickup.
So I should take a look at Harris, at least for right now?
Yeah, I mean, they play the Texans. They don't have a great run defense. I think Harris is probably going to get another 100 yards this week.
Would it be wise to pick him up and maybe start him?
It depends who else you have.
According to, I do have Duke Johnson. I was going to put Balaj in for him. And then I have Mike Davis, who's playing Detroit.
Mike Davis's numbers have not been good over the past few weeks that he's been a starter. It's been less than 10 points. After the first 4 games, I think it was, he was lighting it up. So, but if he doesn't play, they're playing Detroit. Yeah, you want to keep an eye on that. You want to think about him.
I don't know. 2020, what do you think there with if you're looking at Balaj or Damian Harris? What are you thinking?
I'm sticking with Balaj.
Did you really have to ask
matchup? Well, listen, he's going. I'll say it again. He's going against the Jets, and the Jets are abysmal on offense, and the Chargers have a really good offense. I think they're going to get out ahead early, and I think they're just going to run that offensive line. They're going to run it to the ground. I see Balaj getting 20 carries, going for over 100 yards, and at least a touchdown. It's a great matchup, so I would definitely go with Balaj.
All right, Kenneth, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We got a bunch of other comments we have to get to, but we appreciate it. We'll talk to you Sunday morning. All right. All right. Take care. Thanks for calling in, Kenneth.
All right. So Clayton, who was asking about the CMC Julio trade, Sam will get to your question in a second. Let's put this up and follow this up for Clayton. His other receivers are A.J. Brown, Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp, and Will Fuller. So, yeah, I would definitely try to get Julio Jones on my team. Some of these guys you just can't count on week to week.
Clayton, how many do you start? 2 or 3? Probably 2 with a flex, right? If it's 2 with a flex, guys, this is tough, right? Allen Robinson has been steady Eddie all season. A.J. Brown, really good games, really mediocre games. Cooper Kupp, 1,000 receptions, 2 points.
Will Fuller,
boom or bust, right? Julio has been, except for the first few weeks, has been pretty consistent since he's been back from his injury. So I make the trade. I think it'll upgrade your wide receivers. It would be tough on a week-to-week basis trying to determine who you start. 2 with a flex. That's what I thought.
Okay. So then there's a follow-up plate, and we'll get to that in a second. Sorry, we have Sam. He traded Ridley, Antonio Brown, David Montgomery, and Jonathan Taylor for CMC and T. Higgins. Who won this in a redraft? I would say 100% that CMC and Higgins wins this side. How do you guys feel about that? Montgomery, 30 yards a game.
Yeah.
I understand that. Ridley is the factor here, is the issue, right? Because Ridley, you can't compare Ridley to T. Higgins. We know that. We know that Ridley is going to get a lot more points than Higgins. But the question with CMC is he going to be healthy? Right. Sam, if you're trying to load up for the playoffs, then I think getting CMC and T. Higgins is probably the right thing to do. I don't know who your other receivers are if you could afford to have lost Ridley, but everyone else, Antonio Brown, Montgomery, and Taylor, it's a no-brainer. The only question is who else do you have to replace Ridley?
The other question is, when did you get CMC? Did you get him in time to have his good game, the one game back, which is good?
It sounds like you just made this trade.
Oh, you just made the trade. Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, like Kamish said, if you have other wideouts, and you're stashing for the playoffs, I like it.
Yep. All right. Clayton also wants to know what's the most you're giving up for Michael Thomas right now out of that mix as well. Now, Brad, I know you have Michael Thomas in one of your leagues. What's your thought on this?
I did. I traded for Michael Thomas thinking he was coming back and he would come back to some that we've seen in the past. His first week was 5 for 50. This past week was abysmal. I don't know what to do with him. Now you have most likely, obviously, Jameis Winston coming in at quarterback. Are they going to handcuff him or are they going to let him air it out? We don't know. I mean, I would certainly, maybe you try to trade A.J. Brown and Will Fuller from Michael Thomas. And then if you you traded Ridley, you got T. Higgins. So, yeah, I still think you'd have Allen Robinson and Kupp to start. So if Michael Thomas isn't doing it, but I certainly think coming into the latter part of the year, if you could get him, I would try to do that.
I know it's going to sound weird, but I think Jameis Winston might actually be utilizing Michael Thomas more than Breeze has.
It doesn't sound weird. And
the problem is he utilizes the defensive backs more as well.
Right. Well, something, right. When you were talking about Jameis Winston earlier, it's funny. I was going to say, here's a great fantasy quarterback, but a bad NFL quarterback, which in fantasy we love. He'll go for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, with 6 interceptions.
Jameis Winston was the number 1 fantasy quarterback last year.
That's right.
Number 1.
Got cut.
And now he's back on an NFL team.
And he got cut.
It's amazing.
Okay.
I think Michael Thomas will do better with Jameis Winston because he does like to throw it down the sideline quite a bit. So,
okay.
And that's Thomas's.
All right. So what I want to do real quick, I want to jump to tight ends and then do defense and finish up here. Before I do that, just to finish off this trade scenario that other people are crying, I wanted to use Keith as my assistant on this. If I can get a Cartman, screw you guys, I'm going home, because that's how I feel right now with this whole trade. I'm ready to just let people cry all they want,
and it's fantasy. That's what happens.
Yeah.
It's not personal.
You're not helping me out, Keith.
Except you wanted me to do? You want to give you a Cartman?
Screw you guys. I'm going. Yeah.
Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Right, exactly.
No kitty's a bad kitty.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So. Let's jump into tight ends. We won't spend a lot of time here, but it is important because a lot of people, tight ends this year, I don't think I've ever seen it as bad as it is this year. Usually you have a clear top 5, 6 tight ends. You really don't have that for the first time in a very long time. So people are scrambling, they're streaming, they're trying to figure out what to do. Now, on Sunday morning, you guys remember, I said, if you need a tight end, pick up Logan Thomas. I said he had been targeted 46 times this season. So what did he do? He got 6 more targets, 4 catches for 66 yards. Not bad if you need a tight end. But I also said that he's not taking advantage of his opportunities, which is why we're talking about streaming, because he doesn't get touchdowns. And once again, he did not get into the end zone. He is playing with Alex Smith, a more accurate quarterback right now. There's a lot of share of balls going to McKissick. But if you need a tight end, look for Logan Thomas. Also, guys, and this is going to be another one of these weird 2020 things to say, but Jordan Reed, right? A guy, he's been on the field now for 2 weeks and he's still alive, and that's a good sign. He actually caught 5 balls for 62 yards, and he outproduced every other receiver except for Brandon Ayuk. So Ross Dwelly, the other tight end, only saw 2 targets. So I know that the 49ers have a bye next week, so we're not talking about streaming for this week. We're talking about somebody who you might want to monitor if you have a deep league and you have some roster spots. Think about getting Jordan Reed and holding on to him for week 12 and beyond. That being said,
I love Jordan Reed, but he's the only tight end that could actually get hurt on a bye week. So be careful with him this week.
Did you see one of his catches made top 10?
Yeah, incredible. It was incredible.
Yeah,
literally off the ground, picked it up off the ground. He's one of the best tight ends in football if he could just stay healthy.
He's for a half of the game.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's jump into defenses. Keith, what do you got on the defensive side?
Not a ton out there. So I'm going to recommend a couple of these things that you're just going to be like, really? Well, the first one that I'm going to recommend, I keep talking about these guys, and a lot of it has to do with their matchup. You're not going to believe I'm going to say this. It's an incredibly underperforming defense, but it's the Chargers. I mean, this is a team that was supposed to look so good defensively this year, and they really haven't lived up to the hype. Well, here comes their healthy get-right game because it's against who? The Jets. I don't care.
There you go.
I would start Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck as a linebacker and cornerback against the New York Jets because they are just that bad. And they are
Joe Flacco as the quarterback, so expect plenty of interceptions and sacks.
Exactly. Not even Sam Darnold. So I would grab them, and they're really, really available. Only grabbed in 33.4%. To be exact, of ESPN leagues. Another interesting matchup, guys, to pick up. Myles Garrett is really starting to look like the guy they thought he was going to be, and he's always been good, but he's really coming on, pressuring the quarterback, getting sacks. So you got the Cleveland Browns. I like them this week. They're going against Philly, who they just don't look good. They really don't look good. You wanted to dump Carson Wentz on me, and I'm glad I didn't do that trade because I love having Herbert. And they're such an up and down team. I'm just not buying that offensive line right now. So Cleveland's doing a nice job. They're actually a hard team to run on. They're a hard team to throw on. And they are getting a lot of sacks. So I like Cleveland this week.
Yeah, the only I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you. The only problem with Philly is that you never know which Philly you're going to get, right?
Exactly.
Are we going to get the Philly that we saw like even against the Giants, and Philly had a terrible game, and Wentz had a terrible game. The Giants only got 6 points. So all I'm saying is, yes, we know that Carson Wentz is not doing great. We know that line is terrible. With Sanders coming back, you're gonna see a lot more yards. So if your league penalizes for yards, so I'm not saying Browns aren't a good pickup. I'm just saying just be careful. Because that Philly defense, that Philly offense can be sneaky sometimes as far as fantasy.
And then quietly, and this is the team I talked about last week, but I'm only bringing them up because they're still only rostered in 48.5% of the leagues, talking about ESPN, and they're the number 7 defense in football, and that is, of course, our beloved Miami Dolphins. They are doing a really good job of creating turnovers nearly every week. They're scoring touchdowns on defense. They're getting blocked kicks. But what I love about them is if you watch this team play, first of all, they're completely confusing quarterbacks with all of their weird defensive looks. They're putting like 7 guys on the line. No one knows what's going on, and they're getting a lot of sacks. They are going against Denver, and Drew Lock, he is really above average quarterback, but he is really also prone to making that stupid throw and throwing some interceptions. So,
and Drew Lock is injured, and it's possible that he is not going to be the starter. And if that's the case, you better have Miami in your lineup.
Yeah. And again, I'm only bringing them up because I'm just looking at how they're rostered. They're available in over 50% of the leagues. They're the 7th best defense in football. So again, get them on your roster if they in fact are available. So that's going to round out defenses.
All right. Well, that more or less does it for us tonight with the Fantasy Football Buzz podcast. We will be here Sunday morning, 11 a.m. We're here to help you determine who to put in your lineup, who to start, who to bench, who to stream. We're also going to talk to you about the inactives and the actives. That list comes out right in the middle of our show, and we give you the updates as they happen. We would love to hear from you. Of course, between now and Sunday, if you have any questions, go ahead and go to our Facebook page. You can put the comments in there. Even on the YouTube page, you can put the comments, and we will be getting them during the week, and we will address them on Sunday when we come back at 11. Guys, any other final comments?
Man, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
Just so you know, I was called by a few people on that trade. So I understand the trade and I don't understand the trade from my point of view. But it is what it is. And collusion runs wild, and that's okay. So enjoy.
Collusion runs wild. Is that like fantasy football meets porn?
Maybe
collusion.
That sounds, yeah. What's
I'll tell you that. Look,
titty and porn.
Titty bridge.
I barely was voted back into the league, so I'm not surprised that there are a bunch of jealous people out there who don't like the deal because I made a deal. But I appreciate the support from both of you guys, so that's what matters.
All right. Well, enjoy. Right. We'll see you Sunday.
Okay.
And,
take care, everybody.